Well, hello again. Welcome to reading of the Septuagint, and I'm going to just read through the story of Samson from the book of Judges from the Septuagint, and this covers chapters 13 onwards. The character of Samson is not completely dissimilar from that of Heracles in Greek mythology, whom the Phoenicians gave the name Melkart. And the two stories are probably connected themselves with an earlier Sumerian story of Enkidu. The Heracles, you may recall, was also betrayed by a woman, Deianira. She, in fact, betrayed him not willingly, but with good intent, not bad, whereas in this story it's not quite the same. The name Samson is connected with the Hebrew word Shemesh, which means the sun, and some scholars have tried to connect him with a sort of solar myth. He was born, in fact, in Beth Shemesh, which is the house of the sun. The Sumerian theory, however, is more commonly held by scholars, that is, that it's based on a much earlier Sumerian story. The reference to the Nazarite oath that we'll come to is probably a priestly overlay to make the story more palatable to Jewish tastes, since the concept itself appears to be post-exilic, while the story itself is probably very old. Samson is presented as the last of the judges who had authority before the introduction of a king. The Greek, as we'll see, is a very literal translation of the Hebrew, and at times incomprehensibly so. It's very difficult to work out what exactly is meant until one looks back to the Hebrew that we have in the Masoretic text, which may or may not match exactly with what the translators were reading. We have two versions of the story, two versions of the story survive in the Septuagint, one from Codex Alexandrinus, which is known as A, and one from Codex Vaticanus, generally written as B. In this particular edition, we're going to read the one from edition B, which is from the Codex Vaticanus. So we begin with Kai pros etheken hoi huioi Israel poesai tapoterion enopion kuriou, kai par edo kenautus kurios en kairi philisteum tesseraconte ete. Now we get this use of prostithemi, which you may have seen before if you've read some Septuagintal Greek. It's very idiomatic. The prostithemi is used as a kind of intensitive in or translating an intensive sense from the Hebrew. It's literally they added. Prostithemi is to add, but it's often used in the sense of to do something even more. So the sons of Israel continued to do even more the evil thing. So they added to evil, they continued to do more evil. Enopion kuriou, before Yahweh. Now, as you again may have seen back in the Pentateuch, when you see kurios without the definite article, it generally refers to God. It's translating the Hebrew Yahweh, the name of God. And so Yahweh handed them over into the hand of the Philistine, the Philistines, for 40 years. The Philistines, often written as the Alaphuloi in other parts of the Septuagint, and even when you'll see in other books you get Philistine, you get the word for the Alaphuloi, the other tribes. Here we're seeing this Philistine here, which is simply a transliteration, although the U is unusual here. It's normally transliterated by an I. Kain aner, and there was, now they use haste, one, where perhaps classical might use tis. So there was a certain man, there was one man from Zara, this is Hebrew, Zorah, apodemu songeneas to Dani. The songeneas, this is an unusual choice of word here. It's a Greek term, and it's the Greek word for a deme. Demos, of course, means people, but it's used. It was used in Greek to mean a region or a group of people, a deme. It's not in the Hebrew. The Hebrew has the clan of, which is the Songeneas. So the translator has, for some reason, has added in this deme here. So there was a certain man from Zorah, from the deme of the clan of Dan, Kai onoma auto Manoah, and the name for him, so his name was Manoah, Kai gune auto stera kai uk eteken, and the wife for him, so his wife, understand, was stera, this is a word for barren, kai uk eteken, and had not given birth, aorist from tikto. Kai ophthei angelos kuriu prosten gunaika kai epen prosauten idu sustera kai u tetokas. And an angel of Yahweh. Now we get we often get this aorist passive here from the verb horao. This is ophthei from horao. It's underlying this is opt root, and the tor has disappeared before the theta, and the theta has aspirated the pi into a phi, but hiding behind all this is the opt root, from where we get optometrist and so on, ophthalmos for the word for eye and so on. This is the aorist passive from horao, and it's often used in the sense of appeared in an active sense. So perhaps was made to appear, or just translated as appeared. And that's quite common for this verb and for similar verbs in the Septuagint. So an angel of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, behold, you are barren, kai u tetokas, and you have not given birth. This is the perfect from tikto. We saw the aorist up here. So it's tikto, texamai in the future, etekon, and tetoka in the perfect. So you have not given birth. Kai sulepse huion. Now, sulambano is to conceive, to fall pregnant. It's one of the many meanings of this. It can also mean to arrest. It's from sulambano. So you will conceive a huion, a son. Kai nun fulaxai de, kai me pies oinon, kai methusma, kai me phages pan akathaton. And now this is an imperative here, so guard yourself, indeed, so quite emphatic day here. The Hebrew has na, meaning now, and it's just been rendered by day in the Greek here, and we get a nun as well. So guard yourself now, indeed, and do not drink. This is the subjunctive from pino, used as an imperative, which is again quite common. So do not drink wine, and methusma, a word meaning strong drink. This is this word continues on into the New Testament, but it's actually a later word, and it's common in the Septuagint. So do not drink wine and strong drink, and do not eat, another subjunctive from esthio, anything which is akathaton, anything which is unclean. Hoti idu su engastri ekes kai texe huion kai sideros uk anabesatai epiten kephalen autu hoti nazia theou estai topaidarion apotes koilias kai autos axetai tun sosai ton Israel ek kairos Philistim. Because behold you. Now we get this expression, literally you have in your womb. It's literally stomach, but these are often gaster is often used for womb in the Septuagint and in the New Testament. So you have something in your womb. So in other words, you are pregnant. The Hebrew at this point has a participle, just meaning conceiving. So you are conceiving, but the Greek says you are pregnant, and you will bear. This is the future from tikto, so it had the aorist, etekon. This is texamai. It goes into the middle. So this is the future. It's tex si, and then the sigma drops out, and you get a contraction here in that second middle. So you will bear a huion, a son, and sideros, literally iron. We translate this as a razor. Uk anabesatai, will not go above, so will not come down upon his head. Hoti, because the paidarion, this is a diminutive. You get paidion is also a diminutive. You get another one in later Greek, paidarion. So the boy will be a Nazir, which I'll come back to in a minute, a Nazarite of God. Apotes koilias. Now here's the word, another word for womb. And as I mentioned, perhaps in looking at Genesis, the writers often like to use variations. So they use two different words. They've used gaster and then koilias. So for the womb, so he will be a Nazarite of God from the womb, and he himself will begin to save, future from Archemai, Israel from the hand of the Philistines. Now the Nazir here it's a Hebrew word meaning to separate. So hence to often translate this as a Nazarite. You need to see Numbers chapter 6 for the details of the practice. Except in extreme cases, as we're going to see here, the Nazarite vow was short-lived and terminated with a sacrifice of the hair. The practice was one of dedication rather than transactional, and it's mentioned again in the New Testament. There are references to these Nazarite oaths. Kai es elthen hegune kai epento andriautes legusa anthropos diou elthen pros me kai eidos autu hos eidos angelou theou phoberon sphodra. Kai uk erotesa auton pothonestin kai ha onoma autu uk ap angelen moi. So, and the woman went inside and said to her husband, saying, or spoke to her husband, saying, an anthropos theou, this would be translating Elohim, a man of God, came to me, and the appearance of him was understood like the appearance of an angel of God, phoberon sphodra, exceedingly terrifying. And we have this use of sphodra, translating a Hebrew word ma'od, which is often used at the end of a sentence to mean exceedingly, and it's just been rendered straight into Greek as sphodra, and that's very, very common throughout the Septuagint. Kai uk erotesa, from erotao, I did not ask him, pothen estin, from whence he is, and Uk apangalen moi, he did not report to me his name. So he didn't tell me his name. Kai apen moi idu suengastri ekes kai texe huion. And he said to me, behold, literally, you have in your womb, so you are pregnant, and you will bear, that's that second person future from Tikto, you will bear a son. And now do not drink wine and strong drink, and do not eat anything unclean. And we just get a repetition here of all this, because the child will be, now this time they changed it slightly and put a hagion or theou rather than a nazir. So he will be a holy one of God from, and then instead of using koilias, they go back to gaster. So from the womb until the day of his death. Kai pros euxato manoi pros kurion kai apen enemoi kuria adonai ton anthropon tu theou hon apostelas eltheto dai eti pros hemas kai sum bibasato hemas ti poiesumen tai to paidio to tiktomeno. And Manoah prayed from pros euchomai to Kurion, to Yahweh, and said, now we get this interesting combination here. Well, firstly, the en emoi is a literal translation of the Hebrew formula of entreaty. You can't just translate it as in me. It's something like please or we beseech you. The phrase does occur elsewhere, and it's sometimes translated by deamai in the Septuagint, I ask of you. Perhaps it's something like you have to understand be with me, or something like that. It's just please. Kurie Adonai. This is the Greek form of address when the Hebrew has Yahweh Adonai. The Masoretic text here only has Adonai without the Yahweh, which may mean that the original text, the Ur text of the Hebrew version had both names, and one of them has been dropped out by the time you get to the Masoretic text. Anyway, so Adonai is just a word meaning Lord. So Lord Yahweh. So the man of God whom you sent, Eltheto, may he come still to us. So let come the man of God. Slight odd having the accusative here. So whom you sent, let him come indeed again, so eti, to us. Kai sum bibasato, this is an imperative, to instruct. Sum bibastos, to instruct. The word is late classical. It's used in Aristotle to mean to rigidly prove something. This is a late meaning of the verb, and it does go into the New Testament. So let him instruct us as what we might do, hortatory subjunctive, in regard to the boy, the one being born. And I think that'll do us for a little bit for that first section of Judges.